colleagues and guests of our event, welcome to Business Analysis Excellent Conference. We're happy that you have joined us recently, or for those who are staying with us from the previous talk. We are ready to announce our next presenters, our colleagues from Colombia. So good morning to you, Jean-Pierre and Milton. Hey, hey, and good afternoon, good evening, depends to our guests and attendees, depending on your time of the day, because we're streaming all over the world today. So I would like to mention that this session is being recorded and we'll provide with the recording within the week after the conference. And please feel free to post all your questions to our presenters in the chat. So later, Jean-Pierre and Milton will answer to all your questions. The topic is going to be discussed today, leveraging on usual sessions for enhanced communication between developers and business analysts. So it sounds juicy. Milton and Jean-Pierre, hello, how are you doing today?
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Hi, Alexandra. Hi, everyone.
Hi, hi. So nice to have you with us here. I would like to present both of you just so our auditory get to know you better. Milton is a IT engineer with more of 12 years experience, and Jean-Pierre is in IT sector for more than 4 years. So both of you guys are very experienced. Please share your knowledge with us.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Alexandra.
Thank
So,
you, Alexandra, for that personal introduction. Thank you all for joining this talk. So I guess after this nice introduction, we can get down to business. So as Alexandra mentioned, this speech is about how to take advantage about the different usual sessions that we have in Agile. When we say sessions, we are talking about the different artifacts like a sprint review, a sprint, the daily, the sprint retrospective, and so on. So we are going to talk how to take advantage about these different sessions to improve the communications between the business analysts and the developers. Uh, Most of these agile sessions were created with a face-to-face experience in mind. Even, for example, the daily was created for everyone to stand up during the session. But this has changed, especially after the COVID. The virtual sessions now are more popular than before. And so most of these artifacts or type of meetings had to be adapted to the new reality, to the new virtual environment. So we are going to check how to take advantage of this session, because regardless of whether the meeting is in person or virtual, they are an opportunity to improve the communication. They are not a problem or an issue. They are an opportunity that we have to improve our communications. Next slide, please, Jean-Pierre. So for this is our agenda. We have chosen 5 of the most typical sessions that we can find in Agile: refinements, one-to-one, uncertainty reduction, retrospective, and three amigos. So for every of these type of sessions, we are going to show you a brief description about the main features of every type of sessions. So after we are going to present the main challenges that we can find at communication level in every type of session, and finally we will give you some tips or some advices to take advantage of these sessions. So I leave you with Jean-Pierre, who is going to give you a deep dive into the three first type of sessions, and then I will go back to talk about the other two types. Okay, so go ahead, Jean-Pierre. Thank you. You are on mute, Jean-Pierre.
Oh, sorry, I was in mute. Um, so, the refinement session is one of the most important and usual contact points between developers and business analysts because we are preparing the different stories, we are getting them ready and ensuring that all the team is ready to undertake them on the next sprint. So, since this is held on a periodic basis, it might be perceived as a routine meeting. Why? Uh, because, as I said previously, all the team is introduced to the different user stories. Also, those user stories are reviewed during each one of these sessions, and questions will arise during these activities. I mean, there are many aspects that has to be worked on about each one of the user stories, and everyone wants to have a clear understanding of what is going to be developed. But here we are going way beyond simply sharing our screen with the specifications for each user story. Uh, Actually, without an active participation of our development team, we might lose valuable opportunities, and unforeseen difficulties might arise later on when their stories are being developed. Um, so we are responsible to conduct these sessions and ensure that our participants engage on the topics that we are refining. So this is the big question, and that's why I arrived to this point. How can we get the most of a refinement so that the developers align with us and collaborate actively for the best possible outcome? How to get how to obtain the most profitability of these sessions. So this is the biggest question here because sometimes the refinements become very lengthy and difficult to us. So let's go ahead and continue. So as you might have experience on your past projects or current ones, uh, since the refinements are a very recurrent meeting, lots of challenges will arise and they happen every time. The first one, time management. That's something which many of us are fighting against. In my case, it happens a lot because we want to explain our stories as good as possible. Unfortunately, since we are lots of people taking part on this session, time, uh, well, on some moments, time is not enough. Our time frame might be a little bit limited. Also, there is another situation, and it's when the meeting extends more than an hour, our attendants will get distracted. So that means that as consequence, they will not be understanding, or they might not be able to gather all those critical pieces of information that they need to think or to raise the hand and tell us, hey, something's going wrong here. And we when as the session extends more than usual, we might lose our focus. We might end up working or discussing about items that might not be the core of the user stories that we're refining. And this also affects the scope of this meeting. Actually, there is another three issues that are lack of participation among the members. It's understandable that from time to time some of our members are a little bit more shy than another, and we are losing the opportunity of learning what they are thinking. So lack of participation is critical for us, and it might affect our project later on, as well as constantly changing requirements. Haven't you been in a position where a new user story is required to be pushed on the next sprint, but for some reason it didn't have the right priority to be refined on time? This also might present us some challenge, as well as complex user stories. We try to put the most value on our user stories. However, they might become a little bit more complex than expected, and this also might prevent us from explaining them properly. So, uh, to try to cope with this situation, we have to undertake a little bit some basic steps. The first one is to understand the different functionalities that we are developing so that we are able to convey those to our team, to convey the expected result to our team once each user story is completed. So we want to tell them, hey, after this story is completed, we should have this or that functionality implemented, or we should be completing all of these epic, and so on. We should be able to ensure that our user stories are specified early enough so that the team has time to familiarize with them before the refinement. So in this case, the more we specify them in advance, the better. So since we had our user stories specified with enough time, we should share with our team beforehand. A good guide would be okay. Share user stories at least 2 or 3 days before the refinement, so the team has time to be aware that some issues might be improved if needed. So this might help us to ensure that the refinement goes as smooth as possible. We have to be clear about one thing. There is not a magical recipe or trick suitable for all projects. So this is one way that we could do it, but we can also adapt our techniques or our procedures depending of our teams. Now, once our team has all the stories and have read them, we should now go and refine our user stories. So in this case, we should be totally clear about the goal for our user stories. We should share thoroughly the flow that the
Hello, hello. Sorry, we are having communication troubles. Jean-Pierre, Jean-Pierre, we lost you.
If
Okay.
you want, I can continue, Alexandra.
Yes, hopefully Jean-Pierre will reconnect soon. Please, Milton, go
Okay.
ahead. Thank you
Sure,
so much.
sure. Can you see my screen? Okay. So while we wait for Jean-Pierre, I will continue with the uh, other type of sessions that we can find in. Oh, Jean-Pierre is back. Jean-Pierre, can you hear? Can you hear?
When did the session cut? Can you see me?
In the Yeah, in the time to refine slide.
Okay, we can go up again. I don't know why the connection
Okay.
failed, but that's some. But since things happen from time to time, there's always we've always have the guide to the way to solution this situation, please. So, uh, so we were here. How can we get the most of our refinements, right?
Yeah.
All right. So in this case, please let me know when did you let me? Did you left? Did you lose me here or here?
There in
There.
that
Okay.
slide.
Sorry, that's something that was an unexpected failure, but we took steps to solution this. So um, let's go quick. So there's not a magic recipe or trick suitable for our projects. However, we should keep in mind that a deep understanding of what we are developing, it's crucial to tell our team in a clear way that fight early enough, right? Stories were prepared with enough we were prepared with enough time before the refinement date, we should share them with our team. So please share your user stories at least 2 or 3 days in advance and encourage your team adjustments before the refinement takes place. Uh, once the refinement has arrived, once the refinement time has arrived, uh, we should take in be aware of assertive listening, right? So the first thing is to be clear over the goal for our user story. We should share the flow in a thorough manner, and the thorough flow that the flow that the user will take when the user story has been implemented, as well as the different technical, functional, and non-functional requirements. And we should be ready because doubts and questions will arise. Perhaps the proposed flow might be enhanced a little bit, or additional technical task has been discovered while the story was being shown. Uh, if a large change or a split is needed, please take this user story and place them into the back burner. you can go to the next user story, and that story that was reserved can be reworked and presented onto a further refinement session. So do not hesitate to involve all the developers. Sometimes we have to ask them if they have questions or suggestions. This is critical. So if you have a developer that is a little bit more shy than other one, that the others, please ask them with their name. Hey, John, do you have another particular adapt on this user story? Perhaps if we do try to reach them and involve them, they might tell us, yes, I have adapt, or no, I don't have adapt, or even they might tell you, hey, please tell us again the flow. I didn't understand anything. But if we ask them and validate with the developers what is being refined, we should be able to improve our communication. So let's go here to the next one. So well, a critical task here is that a critical aspect here is that we have to prepare our stories with enough time. I've been
You are on mute.
for us to get acquainted with what we are trying to convey to the development team, as well as give the team the opportunity to get the context before the meeting takes place. We have to be precise when presenting each user story for our team. The more precise, the better. We should avoid uh, wandering away from our topic. It's quite difficult, but we should be aware of it. And also, we should avoid at any cost including incomplete user stories. So please do not include incomplete user stories here, because it will introduce uncertainty into our sprint. That it's critical to assertively listen to our team remarks on the user stories. They are also doing their best to ensure that the development will proceed slowly, and their technical knowledge is really important for us. And also, as we're refining our user stories, uh, we can do some small changes while we are sharing our Jira and sharing our user stories. Perhaps the developers got a catch like, hey, please, this field is not the correct one. Can we correct it to this value? Yes, we can do that in a quick way. So small changes might be incorporated in the run, as long as the development team agrees that that these changes will improve our user stories. So we can also improve this session by encouraging our team to put comments on each one of the different Jira issues that will be part of the refinement meeting, or we can use the Teams channels or the personal chats on our Teams application, so that this communication flow doesn't break. All right, let's go. Um, so now we have the one-to-ones. One-to-one is a quite useful technique. We can use it to discuss important topics pertaining for a user story. Perhaps if a developer has a doubt on a user story before the refinement takes place, he might look for us and, okay, let's do a quick call. So this also might happen once the sprint has begun. Perhaps the developer wants to clarify certain aspects of the user story, and that's totally okay. So in this case, we have to be really aware of the story that is being treated, and we should pay close attention to their needs because this also it's useful for team building, and as a result of a successful one-to-one, we might have increased trust between us and our developers. We have some challenges here. The first thing is that this type of calls might be needed on short notice. So perhaps we are busy preparing user stories for our next sprint, and our developer tell us, "Hey, can I call you right now? I have an important job." So that's basis. Uh, as the topic becomes more complex, a third member might be required. So this wouldn't be one-to-one, but will become onto a three amigos or so. We should be eager to take notes on the most important topics in case that we don't have the answer and we have to look for someone else to help us. And since these calls might interfere with with other meetings, we have to be very careful with our time management. Um, Also, if the time management aspect is not so critical, we might be also able to do some small talk just to know better who our developer is. And finally, this is not a standard practice, but when some projects become more complex than others, becomes really, really complex, it is not enough with having our user stories technical activities to achieve the goal. So additional efforts might be required and can be foreseen if we are working closely with our most senior developers. But which kind of additional efforts? So if we are in a project that requires integration or data ETL or so, anything that's quite complex and requires lots of implementations and architecture efforts, we should look for our developers and encourage them to research on those previous activities that might benefit the development of the different user stories, like setting up an environment or so. Why that is an useful practice? Because we will reduce the chance that unexpected failures happens, and thus we will be able to be more accurate with the way the user stories are being developed. We will have more accurate estimations, and also this will be an excellent effort to the most senior. This effort will benefit the most senior developers, especially for those developers that are aiming to become architects, for instance, because these activities are are more suitable for architects, but perhaps the architect is not. It's needing some help, and our team might provide valuable support to them. So this is the third meeting. This is not a common one, but it might happen if the project is especially complex. So now let's go with Milton.
Okay, thank you, Jean-Pierre, for your speech. So now I will take you through the last two type of sessions that we have selected, the Spring Retrospective session and the Three Amigos. So let's start with the Spring Retrospective session. This session is an opportunity for the Agile development team to reflect on past work, to identify different ways to improve the work team. So sometimes this session is seen as a lesson learned meeting where the entire team reflect together to see what went well, what could be improved. So this is basically what is a retrospective session. The most important is that we need to answer three questions. The first one is what went well. The second one is what could be improved. And the last one is the action points that we will plan to achieve these improvements. So now that we remember what is a retrospective session, let's see the different challenges that we can face at communication level. So the first one that we find is not all team members speak and participate in the meeting. It's common that some members don't have the chance or don't want to participate in the during the meeting. This happens for different reasons. It could be the personality. Some people is shyer than others. Others are more outgoing. Or also it could be how the team is handled the time frames. So sometimes some member wants to participate, but he doesn't have the chance to participate. So this is the first challenge that we face. Uh, First, I will mention all the challenges, and after I will recommend different tips to overcome these challenges. So the second one is repetitive meetings with the same findings. If a member attend a session and in every session people talk about the same topic every session, so this could cause that the members lose interest in the session, because it could mean that we are not making progress in every session if we talk every session about the same topic. So this is the second challenge. The next one is people avoid controversial but important topics. There are some uncomfortable topics to talk, especially those that are regarding to the behavior of some member towards the rest. So it's not comfortable to talk about how someone behaves. And the easiest way to avoid this discussion is just ignore. But this is not the best choice, because maybe if you ignore these complicated topics, you can avoid a discussion at the moment, but in the long term, it could affect the work of the team. Uh, Point out team members and blame them for mistakes. Uh, uh, Due to the nature of the retrospective session, it's common to talk about mistakes. It's not bad to talk about mistakes, because if we want to improve something, we need to identify what is wrong. The problem is when we focus on people instead of the issues. So we are going to see how to overcome these issues when we focus on the problem and when we point someone of the team. And the last one is to get a consensus in the team. Uh, during the retrospective session, it's common to have all the members that were part of the iteration or the sprint. So the fact to have this amount of people could make complicated or difficult to have an agreement, to reach an agreement. So now let's see how to overcome these challenges. So the first thing is have a willingness to listen to others. Like Jean-Pierre mentioned before, the improvement in the communications start even before the meeting. So it's important the attitude, how we arrive to the meeting. So it's important to come to the meetings with an open listening attitude. So if we come to the listen thinking that we are right, and that the other point of view are not valid, we are starting in a wrong way the session. So how we arrive to the session is very important. The attitude that we have. The second one is keep in mind the possibility of adapting things on the team after the session. This is closely related to the previous one. So it's also important to arrive to the session with a open to change. So if we understand that there is the possibility to change something at the end of the session, it could make easier to reach an agreement among all the members of the team. The next one is have a moderator to coordinate who speaks. So this is important in order to have an organized session. So it's impossible that everybody talks at the same time. So it's important to have a moderator. If we strictly follow the Scrum recommendation, this moderator should be the Scrum Master. But this is something that has changed recently. And a good practice came up that is rotate the moderator. So I recommend that at the end of the session, of the retrospective session, select the moderator for the next session. So if believe me, if some member feels that he could be the moderator for the next session, he will pay attention to all the details of the current session. So this is a good practice to involve all the team. And the next one is set timeframes to speak. As I mentioned, there are people who speaks a lot. Sorry, I guess that we lost the the presentation, right? Can you hear me? So let me share my screen. Can you see my screen? Okay, I think okay, you can hear me. Okay, thank you. So let me put presentation mode. Let me try again because I'm trying to share my presentation, but I just got. I'm trying to share again. Can you see my? Okay, now I get. I think you can see my screen. Say, let me go to the.
Yeah, we can see your screen. Please
the
share it
okay, okay, thank you. I
in a
think you can see.
presentation mode. Yes, we apologize for inconveniences caused by technical issues today.
Yeah, sorry. I apologize for these technical issues. So let's move on. So we were in the different advices that we can provide to overcome the communications challenges for a retrospective session. As I mentioned, a good practice is to rotate the moderator. This ensures that everyone is involved with the session. The next one is set timeframes to speak. As I said before, there are people who speaks a lot, so it's important to set timeframes before the session. The next one is have a template shared to everyone during the meeting and fill it in real time. One of the pillars of Agile is the transparency. And so it's important to ensure the transparency during the meeting. And we can get this through a template, but not only to share a template. It's important to fill it in real time, so all the members have the chance to participate in the session. There are different models or drafts for of templates for this type of sessions. Here on the right, I put the most typical, that is an space for what went well, what went poorly, that is basically what was wrong or what didn't work well. Um, Based on what went well and what went wrong, some new ideas could came up to the team, and what action will we take. So these are basically the action points that we will take to achieve our goals. The next advice that we have is don't point fingers at members, use team language. Uh, as I mentioned before, due to the nature of the session, it's common to talk about mistakes, and this is not bad. If we need to talk about mistakes, we can do it. The problem is when we focus on the person instead of the issue. So it's important to use a team language. When I say team language, I mean, for example, don't say in this spring we are fixing the mistake made by Milton, for example, or Milton, you ran into an issue. This language doesn't help to have a good communications. Instead of this, try to say we are facing several challenges in this sprint, but we are trying to overcome. Or we run into an issue, but we are able to face this issue. So always talk as a team, and not only for the negative aspects, also for the positive aspects. For example, try to say, we achieved the goal of the sprint thanks to our work, or the customer recognize our work. So try to use team language. Try to talk, to speak as a team, not as an individual. All opinions are important regardless of role or seniority. It's important that all the members feel that their opinions are valuable for the work. So please don't try to classify the opinions according to the seniority. This is not good. So think like a team, and all opinions matter. So this is important. The next one is encourage the team to use respectful and polite language. And this is very important to talk about uncomfortable topics. As I mentioned before, the topics that are related to the behavior of people are complicated to talk, and sometimes some people try to ignore, but this is not good. Why is important to talk straight about a complicated topic? Let's imagine that you have a developer in your team, and this developer always never deliver on time his task. And when you complain and when you ask him for an explanation, he didn't reply in a good way. So this is not good for the team, and this is not good for the project. But it could be that this developer is overloaded because he has been assigned to different projects, and his bad mood, it could be like a way to externalize his stress. So if you had ignored this issue, probably you wouldn't have known the root of the problem. So always try to talk about any topic, regardless if it's an uncomfortable topic, but always try to use a respectful and polite language. Some communications improve just by using a please or a cool or may I have or thank you. Just a thank you could help to improve a communication between two members. So try to use a respectful and polite language. And finally, the last advice that we have is send the minutes of meeting after the session. And it's not only important to send the minutes of meeting, it's important to get the habit to review, that everybody reviews the minutes. Um, and this could help to have a guide for the next session, and it's like a benchmark for this for the next session. So these are the the main advices that we have for the retrospective session. And now we move to the last type of session, three amigos. Um, this is not a common session, but recently it's becoming very popular. For those who don't speak Spanish, the word amigos means friends. But if you look into the literature, you can realize that the word amigos remains in any language. I don't know the reason, to be honest. I was looking for, but I didn't find the accurate reason to maintain the word amigos. But I think it's because it's a nice word, or and a word nice, easy to remember. Um, for those who don't know what is Three Amigos commonly is commonly known as a meeting between the business analyst, the developer, and the tester. But actually, it's a meeting between the three different perspectives. I mean, from the business part, it doesn't have to be the business analyst. It could be the product owner, for example. The most important thing to keep in mind is that every perspective has a purpose in the meeting. So the business the business analyst, or the person who represents the business side, is in charge of responding what problem we are trying to solve, and the developer is responsible for answering how we can build this solution, and the tester is like the feasibility element, because it's the person who is in charge to say what happens if we perform this solution how the developer suggests. If you see in all the other session, we always have the business and the business analyst and the developer. But now in this methodology, we have the tester. This is the third element. And at the beginning, the three amigos were used uh, when at the beginning of a project. So just when we are defining the feasibility of the project, and when we are defining the user stories, when we are understanding what the customer wants. So the tester was very important, because sometimes the business part and the developer can create a solution that they believe that it will work, but in the final part of the iteration, when we are testing, we realize that maybe was not the best choice. So to include the tester from the beginning could help us to identify these type of issues. But as I said, at first, it was used at this methodology at the beginning of the project, or before the implementation of the design. But recently, it has been used during all the life cycle. So if you want to perform to hold these meetings during the all life cycle, it's okay to perform. Um, there is not a format for the three amigos session. The recommendation is to have just short sessions, 30 minutes, maybe 1 hour, but not so long sessions. But this is the main features that we have in Three Amigos. We have a third element, we have three different perspectives from different areas of the project. Um, and now we are going to see which communication challenges we can find. So the first one is keeping the number of attendees reduced to 3. It could be difficult. This is one of the advantage, but at the same times it could be a challenge because uh, it could be that there is a stakeholder that is important to make a decision. So we need to know how to face this challenge. And the next one is to make a decision. It could be difficult. We might think that it's easy to make a decision due to the number of people that we have, but we have people from from 3 different perspectives. So this could make difficult, especially because sometimes every member try to impose their perspective. These are the main challenges and the advices that we have for to overcome these challenges are: first one, have a willingness to listen to others. This is, as I said before, uh, improvement in the communications during a session sometimes start before the session. So it's important to arrive with a good willingness to listen other points of view. Encourage the 3 members to recall on previous experiences. So we have different perspectives. So it's important to know how every member has faced similar projects, similar challenges. And a good practice is to switch the developers. Maybe you are wondering if it's okay to change all the 3 members. Actually, it's not good to change everyone because you could lose the progress that you have made in previous sessions. So, for example, and it's also important to keep the person from business because it's the person who is in charge that to ensure that everybody is aligned about what the customer wants. But if rotate the developer, it could be good because we could have different possibilities to build a different solutions. So these are the main advice that we have for for 3 amigos. Now, just to close the conclusions. Um, so the first conclusion is listen to your team. As I mentioned, this is probably the starting point to achieve a good meeting. All the opinions are important, regardless the seniority and the role. All the opinions are important. Try to think like a team, not like a set of people, a group of people. Try to think like a block, like a team. Every question is valid, so please don't feel that someone is asking stupid questions. Not all opinions matter. Um, we can see that there are some tips or some advices that apply for all the type of sessions. There are others that apply for a specific session due to the nature of every artifact. And finally, proper communication practices leads to successful meetings. So that's it that we have for today. I hope you have liked it and you have enjoyed. Please, if you have some questions, this is the moment to ask. Feel free to ask them.
Yes, we are out of time and we have maybe 1 or 2 minutes more. And I would like to apologize for inconveniences caused by technical disruptions today. And thank you, Milton and Jean-Pierre, for your presentation. I would like to announce the next presentation. It will be Anastasia Gorbatenko and her topic, Best Practices, How to Conduct Discovery Phase for Machine Learning Project. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Milton. Thank you, Jean-Pierre, again. Have a nice rest of the day and enjoy the conference. Thank you so
Thank you.
much for participating.
Thank you.
Thank you.